As always, it is important to contact each other on a human level first before we begin to speak about all these pen and paper things. And the reason why that is usually done, regardless of whatever the observer might think, is so that we can correct ourselves in the course of what we're doing. If one just goes straight into these black and white and starts to read it, it's easy to get so emotionally involved that you add your own bias or miss the entire point, which happens ever too often. When we contact each other on a human level, which in truth is the substance of all things, whatever else that we read on an intellectual level, man-made law or otherwise, any type of law, if we perceive those things that we are reading with human connection and things that are relatable conditions to you and I, that which we are reading will have far more significance beyond merely intellectually masturbating, beyond merely just accumulating information. No different than is done in a regular education system. People just accumulate information based on memory. They don't consume said information for the purpose of application or for the purpose of syllogistical reasoning. None of that ought to exist here. So, in speaking to each other on a human level, it is very important to realize that in today's world, those taking advantage of people, tortfeasors, are taught that it is okay that they don't know, because the expectation is that the everyday man that they're interfacing with also don't know. In said circumstance, two wrong truly does not make it right. If you do not know, and the tortfeasor did not care to know, then you, your children, or the younger generations, even if you do not have children, in that circumstance where you don't know and the tortfeasor is the one taking advantage of you, do not care to know, one of two things then happens. You and everyone else who's being taken advantage of, being turned into serfs, slowly but steadily, systematically, have no choice but to just consent to that which does not benefit you, contrary to substantive law. Or two, you just know something is not quite right, yet you just go along with it nonetheless, because you don't know. In said case, two wrong does not make a right. No different than you will observe people in today's world. What people call character or enthusiasm or charisma. 9 out of 10 of that you see in people, all that bravado, is just a facade. It's a lie. Only about 10% of everything that you see in people, no matter whether they consider themselves extrovert, friendly, charismatic, only about 10% of it is real. Everything else is trash. Focus on what's in plain sight, because when it comes to man-made law, belief or not, they actually show it to you in black and white. So what is in plain sight? Focus on it. But nonetheless, what you readily think what you're reading means, look beyond it. Because the majority of what is placed in front of you, despite the fact that it's clear and they don't hide it, they word it so well, given that legalese is a perfected form of doublespeak. Again, legalese is a perfected form of doublespeak. Therefore, they can write to you in black and white 2 words. 2 very simple words that tells you exactly what it means right in your face. Yet when you read it, what you see right in front of you, you interpret it as the opposite of what it truly means. No different than someone who is feeding you bullshit through character, which can be altered at any moment. Because anyone who's smart enough with an average intelligence will know, well, humans like people who show them certain character and bravado. So all I have to do is just give it to them. They will eat it up. It is no difference with pen and paper. Someone can write something in front of you and lie to you right in front of you in black and white. In other words, it's BS. Yet, a small portion of that is the truth. You have to know these subtleties if you at least care enough about yourself. With that said, these basic talks on a human level in the midst of these videos are no different than how the computer and the guided missile, assist that missile grope the space in between it and its target. All these legalese crap are the missile itself. They're the medium to which the homing device uses. It is the catalyst. But then there's a machine inside that physical thing called a missile that assisted guides itself to turn and weave and avoid objects. Even when its target turns, it turns along with it. That machine inside that missile that assists that missile grope the space in between it to follow its target, that machine in this case is the relatable human condition behind all these black and white. Black and white were reading the missile itself because they are very powerful. But the only thing you can use as a compass to guide that missile, those black and white thing we're reading, are the relatable human conditions. If you don't do enough self-reflection to realize the relatable conditions to these black and white, all you are simply doing is intellectually jacking off. This is the reason why you find a lot of people with a lot of information. They'll even brag about it. Yet, there's really no substance behind it. Yet, they know all these information, luxury for information and technology. Yet, all those information cannot be functionally put to use. That is because somewhere deep in them, they've yet to connect it with themselves. They've yet to actually identify themselves with the things they are reading in black and white. Because that is what would assist you auto-correct your path so that your intent could get to its destination. With that said, let's begin with the preamble. The same preamble exists uniformly in all of the states. The same preamble exists uniformly in all of the states. The same preamble exists uniformly in all of the states. We, the people of the state of Illinois, grateful to Almighty God for the civil, political, and religious liberty, which He hath so long permitted us to enjoy, and looking to Him for a blessing upon our endeavors to secure and transmit, meaning it's meant to pass on. The same unimpaired to succeeding generations. In other words, those who create these things that we now refer to as inalienable, substantive, affirmed, secured rights by any given nature of constitution. Those who established and created it intended for it to pass on to you, the one listening to this, and your children in the future, or the younger generations that are younger than you, the one listening to this. So, if any tortfeasor wants to somehow convince you that the Constitution does not exist anymore or is not valid, this itself is self-evident. That's the contrary. In order to form a more perfect government, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. They even repeated it in other words, meaning the intent is so that government could be perfected and justice be established and domestic tranquility be ensured, and for common defense and general welfare, and to secure the blessings of liberty. Anyone that then tells you that the Constitution does not exist or is some washed up thing is telling you that they don't want a perfect government, that they don't want justice, that they do not want a domestic tranquility, that they do not want a common defense, that they do not want a general welfare, that they do not want to secure blessings of liberty to themselves, you, the one they're taking advantage of, or your posterity. Liberty is the freedom from permission. Rights is the substance of who you are. Given the fact that rights are substance of who you are, you, being spiritual innately, whenever someone violates it or tell you the Constitution which affirms said rights does not exist, it is as though they are spiritually slapping you in the face. Something is wrong with that. And the only time that you, and the only manner that you, and the only cause that you could possibly use to do anything, to put together your own self, your own liberty, your own tranquility, your own common defense, your own general welfare, and the blessings that is to be applied to you and everyone else, young and old, perpetually. The only way that you can secure that is if you first are aware that it even exists. All men are by nature free and independent, and have certain inherent and inalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And in order to secure these rights and protection of property, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. This last clause within the subsection of the Bill of Rights in Illinois, which exists uniformly everywhere else in any other states, whereby it states that governments derive their just powers of the consent of the governed. This word consent is where you hear many people say, I don't consent to this, I don't consent to that, I don't consent to this, I don't consent to that. If they've never shown you or explained to you the simplicity and the origin of it in modern times, there it is. And from this consent is where every other thing that any tortfeasors can ever point at, whether it be policy internally or what they call public policy, which is administrative things, or what they deem to be a statutized version of the public law, public act, session law, slip laws. Whatever it is that they say applies to them to their benefit in order to limit or control you, realize that it has its root in your consent. Because the foundational law that gives way to any of those other things, such as policy, administration, or statute, or public laws, congressional, on a state level, the law that gives rise to all that is called the Constitution. And within the Constitution, state or federal level, there's always a clause that constantly lets you know towards the beginning that your consent is required. By virtue of that, we now have this thing called the United States Constitution, specifically Fourth Amendment. We're using the federal version in this case first. Those loud, confident, charismatic people, they're the first ones that would go face down, ass up. Quick. So don't let all the crap you see in today's world woo you, or all that facade cause you to be brain dead. You know how the world works to help you and your posterity. And most tortfeasors would have a lot of charisma and would approach you with such confidence that it would almost convince you that they are right. Don't be belligerent. But if you know these basic elements, all you have to do is hit that record button and do it privately if you want to, because you have the right to do so per First Amendment speech. And whenever that any public employees are within their public capacity, they don't have reasonable expectation of privacy, especially where constitutional violations are anticipated or involved. And all you have to do is evoke these basic elements of what's going on in form of questions. Simple, gentle questions. And you set them up, and usually, since they think they are in control, and they love to be, by the way, because that's the core of how they are trained internally, to stay in control. Since they love that, they would always self-confess. Very few municipal police have emotional, spiritual, and logical intelligence to the point where they actually go over these things, or know them, or even have enough basic human compassion to stop and think before they act. Therefore, most of the time you meet these municipal employees, if you know what you are doing, 100%, not a few, but 100% of your interaction with them, if you know these things, will basically be you setting them up. Simple and plain. Because in their mind, they've came to the conclusion that they are going to control the circumstance. If you know the art of war, the feminine principles will always benefit you. I really implore you to read a book on Taoism. It's called... Now, it's a book that might appear like a book relating to copulation between man and woman, but it deals with the essence of things. And it goes into some art or war that were used by certain rulers in the ancient world when it comes to the importance of feminine essence. Feminine essence, not in terms of sexuality, feminine essence in terms of the way you process information in your mind, not in terms of being a soft sissy. Feminine essence in the fact that you're not always looking to just get instant gratification and to just aggressively enforce something, but more so be systematic, be shrewd, be very, very shrewd. If someone is coming to you with a very margin of energy, which most municipal, one of the things that you must keep in mind when it comes to triggering or validating a Terry stop, because some of these municipal police are trained by lawyers or some other people who literally, they have, if you read the agenda and minutes of these municipalities and you look at the name of the corporations that they're paying certain things to train their employees, you'll realize that these are actually sales companies. They literally have sale companies from Fortune 500 come into their municipalities to train their police officers on how to use human impulse to get what they want. Then they pair that up with the basic case laws that attorneys tell them, oh yeah, Terry stop, you can search them without any warrant, it's fine. So now they'll come to you and literally they would verbalize and write down sales pitch that I told him that Terry stop was taking place. But you don't know what Terry stop is, do you? Because if you do, you will remove all suppositions written down relating to Terry stop. On one of those suppositions that probable cause exists when the facts and circumstances known by the arresting officer are sufficient to warrant a reasonable person to believe that the suspect has committed an offense. Basic principles were read in the past, the prior case law, and the prior adjudicated fact, judge-made law, and within the legislature. What is the second tier? So now the first tier of encounter. Hope you're not at the other end of the court when they whack that huge rock at you, disguised as a tennis ball. The only thing that can assist you alleviate that liability of what's coming at you is competence. In order to have a right, you must be competent. Otherwise, you will just be a victim in society. Know better, be better, and do better. And preserve the integrity of what is yours and your own children. If you don't do better, how can your children ever? The essence of what you are as an adult in the 21st century is affecting everything that the younger generations are observing or vicariously being a victim to. If you say you're a man, you have strength, courage, charisma, all that, right? Yeah, that's good. And you're not competent about these basic things, this basic nature of interaction in society, your job is not complete as a man. You have a very hollow space inside of you. Being a man has a lot of responsibility. Competence is one of those. If you say you are a woman, a strong woman, strong independent woman, and you are not competent, you're just a well-seasoned food for someone to take advantage of you and your children. Tortfeasors don't care about what is right or wrong. Tortfeasors care about taking control of things and winning. That's what they care about. You, on the other hand, if you are playing that same role and you just want to make bare naked assertion that you're somebody who has a right, you will keep getting your ass kicked. The complete 52-minute video is posted on the Patreon page. Take care. Best of luck.